Hello, hello, hello. It is another Terrain Tuesday. I am your host, CAVBoss. Hello, Dave. How are you doing today? I guess first things should be a nice little sound check. Check. Does that sound okay? Good. I was afraid we were going to have a little bit of a sound problem. My mic wasn't working until about 5 minutes ago, but I figured out the problem. Uh, sort of. You could call it a dragon or just a really big lizard. So I hope everybody's having a good day. I spent most of the afternoon working on projects for my children. Funny how they want to be at the front. Well, here you go. At least we're going to work on some skeleton part of it anyway. They make really nice, these things here make really nice centerpieces on a board. So I'm always reminded, what always got me started was back in the original Star Wars with the crate dragons. You see up on the top of the hill of the sand, the old skeleton. I just always thought that looked really cool. It was a cool thing to have in the game. Yeah. Plus, I played Star Wars Galaxies for a long, long time, and back in its heyday, and so very used to crate dragon bones laying around. But we're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to show up. If you have any questions or something, doesn't necessarily have to be about terrain, just a cav question that was burning on your mind. We can talk a little bit about that. Oh, excuse the phone. I'm sorry. It will turn off here in a second. We go through dialer days. Today is a dialer day. We are getting call after call on the dialer. Oh, hush up. Yeah, yeah, the game, when it dropped off at the end, it dropped off quick. So that's out of all the games I've ever played, I really missed that. I would also like to take a moment today. One of my favorite actors passed away today, Danny DeVito. So lots and lots of laughs from him over the years. Sorry, trying to keep hydrated too. Humidity's up today. I've been working outside all day. It's getting about time for me to get a new PC. I'm kind of looking forward to playing Baldur's Gate because I really like Divinity 2 from that company. I don't know that I'm overly wild about the whole astral plane stuff. That was never one of my favorite parts of D&D, so we'll see how that turns out. I have managed to fall back on uh, Civ 5, so that's been my poison at the middle of the night here lately. All right, couple more minutes and then I'm going to get started on the project. I'm going to spend the first hour tonight kind of getting things ready for this. Um, and then going to work on the second hour back on my MDF building that I've been working on the last couple of weeks and try to get it a little further ahead. I'm trying to put together a pretty substantial city that I want to have for showing off here pretty soon when we do some things. At some point, he probably did. He swallowed that dude right up. I think that the rib cage might be a little out of scale, but it was for the look we were going for because we wanted to make it a where they could walk through there. As we get a little further down on this, probably next week we'll break out the static grass, kind of show people a little bit how to use that if you haven't used it before. It can be intimidating for some people, but it's a pretty simple concept and it really can take your terrain to another level. What's everybody painting on right now? And it's okay if it's not a cav. It's all right. Painting Ritter. There's I always enjoy painting Ritter. Some of the box set models from that other American mecha game. It's okay, Roland. They have certainly made quite the step forward with the latest plastics that they put in the box. So luckily, I did all the groundwork for them, so they can finally get some good plastic minis out. Cool. Yeah, resin printers are awesome. Um, they can have a nice learning curve, especially with some of the lower end ones. Get them dialed in and everything like that. But luckily, there's just so much stuff on YouTube to at least get you in the ballpark. I have a whole box of the original HO scale heavy gear. Um, Someday I want to get in and I've painted a couple of them, but I want to go in and finish them up just for display. I always thought those were so cool. I think they really lost where they could have gone if they had stayed with the bigger scale. I know at the time the metal was just too expensive as they were getting that big, but when they had the chance to go plastic, I couldn't fathom why they didn't go back to the original scale. That would have been such a cool thing to release the game back into the market. I mean, I like Heavy Gear. I think it's a great game. Certainly the history, the background is very, very well done. But with it being basically the same scale as what everybody else is doing, it's just another mech game that I don't have time to play. So I'm kind of dialed in with the one I'm playing right now. So, all right. So we're going to work a little bit on my terrain project here that I'm building for a kind of like a desert board, or I guess a Badlands, or kind of a Martian kind of look to it. The piece that you see here on the work table right now, this is a thing that me and Chris Lewis made years ago, and it is actually a wireframe and sculpting. So it has actually held up amazingly well over the years. I think it's about 5 years old, I think, is when we made it. It's had a couple little spots, but they were easy to glue. It's easy to transport. The tail comes off and the head. So those can pack up and not be there. We did kind of oversize the rib cage, because for this particular game that we set this up for, we wanted the calves to be able to run through there. We just thought that would be a really cool effect. So, but I really don't feel like sculpting anymore with a bunch of Sculpey. It's not the easiest thing in the world to use. And like I said, it can be a little, you have to be a little more gentler with it. So the project that I've got and that I saw that I thought would be real cool is Reaper has a skeleton dragon, 77966. I don't know if it's still available or not. Sometimes with some of the bigger bone stuff, once they get it in and once it's gone, it's gone. If the demand isn't there for it. So, but at one point while I was at the shop, I grabbed a couple of them. So, because I kind of had this in mind down the road. When I saw it. All right. Take the glasses off so I can see up straight. The cool thing too is it's got this really neat rock base in it. It's a little ruin-like because it's got some blocks in it, kind of. But I think that would make a really cool separate piece to use somewhere down the road. So I got a couple of those for the future. I don't know, maybe I can work it into this one. I don't know, we'll look, we'll see. All right, so it comes with 2 wings. We're not really going to use the wings because it's not really a dragon that we're making. It's more of a big lizard. The nice thing though is it's got some good bone in it. So we might have some places to scatter some bones down the road. In order to build this the way that I want to build it is we're going to have to do a little bit of modeling here, a little bit of cutting up. So it's got a couple of sprues that we need to, and this is the older bones material, so it's soft and pretty easy to carve with. So be careful, don't cut anything important off. I don't see anywhere too bad of flash anywhere. And feel free to ask questions anytime as we go along here. I'm trying to pay attention and will do my best to answer it. Once we get all this done, then we'll figure out how we're going to lay it out. Now, one of the things, obviously, with this being a skeleton dragon, yeah. Well, luckily, if I cut anything off here, I can always build it back. But since I am kind of going for a more of a scattered remains look to it, we're going to have to disassemble him a little bit because they've got kind of some of him still connected, and they've got the wing joint since we're not going to put the wings on there. So I'm going to try to very carefully cut the leg off the skeleton here. You have to do a little carving and get one of my serious knives here. We can get a good cut. And you have to do a little scraping, a little. I may have to fill that in on one side a little bit too down the road. All right, so let's see here. Maybe I should have changed out my scalpel blade. I may have a dull blade here. Not sure how often this has been used lately. We'll be able to stretch him out and stuff here. That's the nice thing about building this kind of stuff is if you cut somewhere you don't mean to, it's all right. We can fix it. We can rebuild you. So I guess I do get to do a little sculpting after all. A little at a time. And if you have access to a resin, I'm sure that there is probably some kind of a skeleton out there, some kind of 3D file. Or Sparks, you could probably make your own. But move it around and get all the pieces that you could ever want. Luckily, in the bone, it has lots of has a very uneven surface, so that makes it even easier to kind of keep that roughness of the. I need you to remind me. I need to get with you to finish. When you've got a couple of files we need to finish up, or that we may be going to need here pretty quick. Darn shoulder joints. All right, I got Band-Aids close by if I need them, so. Well, Chandler, it depends on how you want to go. If you want to spend the time to uh, learn the ins and outs of it and how to set things up and do things like that, and you can kind of go the cheaper route and get $200, $300, $400 printers. Or you can kind of go with a plug and play one, like a Form 3, which is about a $3,000 printer, but it is pretty much bulletproof. So I know that I call them the weed whackers, the FDM printers that use the plastic cord. I decided to go cheap when I got into those. And by the time I got done with it and the money I spent on it fixing stuff that should have come already that way, and then down the road I bought a Prusa, which is about a $900 one, and I wish that I had just bought all Prusas. I've got two Ender 5s here, an Ender 5 and an Ender 5 Pro. And like I said, by the time, yeah, it's a Prusa, but it's not a resin printer. It's an FDM printer, so it uses the weed whacker stuff. But it's a Czechoslovakian company, and I recommend to anybody that asks me for an FDM printer, especially for terrain and stuff, is just go get you a Prusa. Spend the $990 or whatever it is. Get it in. You plug it in. It's got its own software. You're going to be printing something the next day. So I've learned my lesson. I don't have time to mess with the cheapy ones. But to each their own, so it may be an option for you. All right, I think we've about got this shoulder dug out. A little more, a little shaping here. Depending on where that ends up, we may have to go back and do a little fill work, but it's a lot better than what it could have been. Most of the line off there. All right, can't read without my glasses on. I don't know if those are really readily available in the US. sparks? Because I've never even heard of one. And I'm pretty much on that stuff all the time, so. All right, so that gets that one out. So we got a nice pile of pieces of plastic here. All right, and number 2. This one's going to be a little tougher because he's got the legs attached to it too, but we'll get it off there. We'll go at it in 2 different ways here. We have a foot. All right. This one. I feel like I'm almost like I'm butchering. Trying to find the best cut here. The leanest cut. All right. That actually ended up coming off a little better than I thought it was going. Nope, you haven't missed anything. I'm still chopping away here, cleaning this skeletal dragon from Reaper up to get it more into a playable terrain piece. So it's having a little cutting, a little sculpting here and there to get the bones to look upright. They said this one is the softer, older bones, so it's a little easier to chop, chop, chop. Yeah, I would not want to have to be doing this with with metal. No, not making any dino bots. Just something new to put on my desert board as a nice obstacle. That's not just a boring piece. That's the main thing I like to try to do with terrain is I like to build stuff that it may not have a whole lot of importance to the mechanic side of the game, but it just adds to the board, keeps it from being so boring. Same thing over and over. And I try to look for stuff that's a little out of the ordinary. All right, how is the bones material for sculpting compared to styrene? Night and day, Sparks. Uh, the bones material is PVC, so it's similar to like your plumbing pipe and stuff like that. But depending on how you mix it, you can get different softnesses, what they call durometer. So your this particular bones is about a 60 durometer, so pretty soft in the grand scope of the scales with 100 and 110. The last Kickstarter that we did, those figures were done with 110 durometer, so you can see the difference there pretty easily. We had originally started using that after we the first figure that we did it in was the Enforcer, and that when they saw that what we had got with it, that became Bones Black. So but the older the white and the light gray bone stuff is, I mean, it's got the consistency of probably kind of a heavier clay for cutting, so pretty easy. All right, we're getting there. Trying to take off the parts just enough to kind of keep it looking like the other ones that we're not having to cut up any on. Plus, and a sharper knife makes, I'm using a scalpel here, and that makes a big difference when you're chopping this stuff up. You do not want a dull knife, that is for sure. All right, so that gets that leg and that joint off of there. All right, so I think we can leave the one leg on the, we'll see how that sits. Yeah, the enforcer really moved us forward with what we were attempting to do. So it was, when we did the third one, it was a no-brainer. All right, so we're going to take off this back spur here because I think that's going to get in the way. We're going to smooth it out a little bit. And then it's got some pegs for connecting it to the base. We don't need those. We're going to chop those off. And and you can do it how you want to do it. As I was looking at putting this together, I thought about pre-primer in this and all kinds of things, but I think it'll be easier just to do it after the fact. Because we've got, let's see here. Now I got to remember how he went together since I've got him in pieces now. All right, I think this was for the head, right? Yeah. All right. So then this would have been the rest of the. They kind of keyed it. Oh. So, oh no, that goes there. Okay. Then this. Okay. Oh, and this went in there. I'm guessing. Like so. All right, and then that was. All right. So we're going to leave that on there because I think. All right. So let's look and see what we got here with where we need to go from here. So basically what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to get this guy on his base and let him be drying. And then next week, once I'll get him primered and get some of the ground cover down on him. We'll try to carve some of the rocks tonight. It is. It's a little bit of an archaeologist here. I guess I should have checked them out before I did them. All right, so I've already got my base here kind of pre-cut. I kind of guessed earlier kind of the shape, and I like an irregular shape rather than, I don't like circles and squares and rounded corners and stuff like that. So let's figure the pieces we're going to use first. How we want to put those in there. Because basically what we're looking for is our skeleton out in the wild. Goes together like so. And then all right, so I think we're good with that. I think we'll go ahead and glue this together. I think that'll work for what I want. I just use Gorilla Super Glue. I also use lots of clear Gorilla Glue. And by accident, I discovered that Gorilla Glue, the clear, the non-foaming, is an accelerant for their super glue. So if you're trying to get a quick, good fit, I have found if you put a little super glue on one side and a little Gorilla Glue on the other side and put them together, it's almost pretty much an instant. And the nice thing about it is that Gorilla Glue, once it cures, it is just a whole lot better for holding models together. I'm gonna put a little super glue in there. I'm gonna put a little on here. I don't quite remember how I kind of discovered that. So, but it has made my life much, much easier, especially when I'm trying to balance an airplane or a hover tank or something on a stand. I don't want to sit there and hold it all day. We're going to put a little bit of big clear on here. All right, so I'll put the two together, hopefully again. And if a little glue leaks out, don't worry about it. It'll just look like dirt. Hold that all together for a little bit. Wipe it down if you need to a little bit. Now, if I don't need it to immediately cure, I always use the clear Gorilla Glue. It's like it's kind of filling in the crack there too. So another good trick is if you have, let's say you have a space that you're trying to fill. So I've got some super glue mixed into that. This is baking soda, and baking soda is also an instant accelerant for super glue, and it also kind of forms in it, so it makes a little bit of a it's very good for filling holes in because it causes the super glue to set instantly. So you can kind of use it to build it up. And once it dries, it's super hard and is easy to sand. Well, and yeah, there's no telling. It's everybody's got their different thing, but I don't know if you can see here, but so it's where it's on that glue there. Then we're going to go in here and I'll dust off the excess. But I don't know how well you can see in the camera, but now that big dark line is pretty much filled in. I see a little bit there. We'll go back and put a little more here. And you want to make sure, though, if you are doing this, you want to spread it out, because what will happen is it'll just cure the top and you'll get a little super glue bubble that's not cured on the inside. But see, you can just put that on there like that, just a little baking soda. Shake off the excess. and voila, no more crack. Probably ought to use a better brush than these cheapies because they're sticking to it. All right, it's got a little bit of a crack left. And you can, the nice thing too is you can keep building it up. So if you put a little in and cure it and put a little on top of it and cure it, you can really fill in some cracks. And I knew that I was going to have some of that. That's one of the reasons I decided not to go ahead and primer it yet. It's actually an old modeler trick, Sparks. The old timers a long time told me about that, and it's just like I said, it's baking soda, not baking powder. So there is a difference there, but it makes for it's a great filler. But so if you can see there, the crack is totally gone. This is going to be on the bottom, so I'm not as worried about that. So now it's a little trickier for something that's deep like this because you have to build it up layer by layer. So afterwards, after I see where everything sits and after it cures, something like that, I'd use a little green stuff, mix up and fill that in, or use a little wood filler, something that's a little more stout for putting that together. All right, so we're gonna have this guy here, and then we were going to put the tail in. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, see, I don't know that that's going to work out right. Because I think after he sit here for a long time that there's a good chance that could have broke off. Either that or turn it a little bit. I don't see, because I think I want it like that. All right, so I think the leg needs to come off. We're gonna leave the hip bone on there, but we're gonna cut the leg out so that it looks like the leg fell off of it. So we gotta be a little more careful since we're trying to save and make it look like that the ball has that it's just come out of the joint. But we'll get it. All right, and then we'll go back and cut it off from the where it's touching the tail pieces. Okay. So we'll smooth this out to go with our joint so that it looks like more like the ball. A lot of this too will help when we go in and start painting. When we darken it up and weather it a little bit, I think will help immensely. Tag myself a little there. At the point. All right, so let's look at this for a second now. At least the head, we're good on the head. The head's gonna sit there like that. I don't know that I need the lower joint mouth in there. I don't know, I guess I might be able to get it in there and make it look okay. It kind of goes way down in there. No, I think I like it without the lower jaw. Make it look like the lower jaw is kind of sunk down into the ground. Because I'm going to build this all up with rock and stuff, so. I said I like the base that came with it, but it's uh, too blocky. Not going to look as natural as I want without doing a lot of cutting, and it's easier to do it in styrofoam. So, okay, so we've got him. We're going to have. That's his chest. Where did that go? Oh, this was his neck. That's right. So we can have that. All right, we're going to make an audible here. Kind of go back with the sunken ground because I think the it's going to sit up too tall. So let's cut it off flat. And get rid of some of the you know what? If I got my clippers. Stop for clippers. Probably brought everything but my clippers. Naturally. All right. I think let's try this. The problem is they're so soft for the thinness that they are. They're wanting to kind of give on me. Give me a good line there. Start from the back, see if we can get a little. You know, this might be soft enough. I might be able to even get them with a pair of scissors. Try that. There you go. Much straighter line. All right. All right, I think that's getting me more for the look that I want. That way it looks a little more sunken into the ground, and he won't sit up as high. All right, so let's see. That one went in. Oh, like so. All right, so we still got some problems with the tail. It's not really laying the way we want it to lay. But I don't know if I want to have it down like it's fallen to the ground. Know that I can pin it far enough down to with what I've got here. I need to shape these back here a little bit better where I cut it off. Make it look more like the parts that we left. Round them off a little bit. All right, so yes, we'll go ahead and glue this together. And I think I'm going to have to try to force that down. I can build up some rock in there too. That'll kind of like a little bit of underground for him a little bit more. All right, so let's go ahead and glue this so it can be sitting. Got in there, and we're going to put a little super glue on this end. Force that in there. Yeah. Hold that for a second. Chance to set up. All right, we're gonna let that dry a little bit more because I want a good hard. We'll put the other one on the head here. Get that one started. You could use the boiling water, but it's all as since I'm really taking him out of the shape that he was supposed to be in. That's really gonna fight you. It's a lot easier to get it to go back to what it's supposed to be than what you want it to be. But with enough glue and a little bit of pinning here and there, we will make this dude. It'll go where we want it to go. And like I said, it's this is going to be, to me, this is going to be kind of out on the out in the Badlands kind of an area or something like that. So, we'll build up some rock and some underneath him too, kind of where he's draped and fallen. Because basically, I think what I'll get this glued down, and then pull the tail down like so after it sets better. But I'll probably I am gonna have to go once I know kind of where he's at. I'll draw in some things because we'll have to come back and put in some gravel and stuff underneath him because I'm not going to be able to get to him once he's all dried down. So, all right, so let's figure out what we're going to do with the rest of him. So we left one hip on. Like that. So that went up in there like that. So let's go in here and we're going to cut this hip off of this leg too. Then we can glue that hip on there, and I think that'll make him, it'll balance him out a little bit. That's a great thing too with using MDF for your bases, is if you need to come in and pin him, you can come up from the bottom a little bit and countersink it and have it stick up, and then set him down on that pin. All right, so this just is going to glue back next to this one, like so. So that we'll put that on there. This is a Reaper miniatures from their Bones line. It's a skeletal dragon, and it's just, I think, just the right size, especially for Cav. The only problem is I don't know if they are available anymore, because some of the bigger pieces, if they don't sell well, they don't do a second run on them. So I know that they do a metal version, but I think it's a lot smaller. But I think they're still, these are still available out in the retail market if you look around and find somebody with them somewhere. If not, I'm sure that there is some other versions. When I saw this one back in the time, like I said, I grabbed a couple of them and have been saving them for this, and I thought it would be a good time to get started on it. Hi there, Pigpen. How are you doing tonight? All right, so we're gonna have a little bit of a crack there, so we're gonna do the super glue and baking soda trick here. Super glues. We're gonna spread that across the crack there. All right. Then we're going to put a little baking soda, not baking powder, baking soda across there. Like I said, if you're coming in late, baking powder on top of super glue is an instant accelerant. And the number, at least on the bag that I got, which may or may not be what it ended up being in production, but it is 77966. And I'll put up some pictures and some notes on the on our Facebook and stuff that way, so you'll have a better idea of the parts that I'm using. especially when I start doing more of getting into some of the painting side of it and stuff too. You'll need to see some things that we're doing. So, all right. So see, I can come in here and knock off the excess here. And which I don't know how well you can see on the camera, but it fills in that crack. And you can paint it, you can sand it, you can do whatever you need to down the road. One of the things too I wanted to do is I wanted to break off one of his horns. I think give him a little more character if he's got a bit of a horn missing. So we're going to kind of cut a jagged cut there so it looks like it broke off. Okay. All right, then this, I think we're ready to glue him on there. Hi there, Gimli, how are you? And if you're wondering why I'm using two different kind of glues, same thing by accident. I found that Gorilla Glue Super Glue and Gorilla Glue Clear acts as an accelerant on the super glue. So it makes for a lot quicker connection. You still have to give it some time to let it set up good and hard, but at least it causes it to start curing right off the bat so you can get it to stick together a little bit. Okay, so first you should have somewhere nice to do your baking soda, not on your work area. But we have to do with what we got to do. I can't run off to my junk area where I do painting and stuff to keep the mess out of the way. Every time you say accelerant, I expect an explosion. Well, it does get a little warm. Yeah, I mean you could do a zombie dragon as well if you wanted, like I said, a fresher version. But you might said look around out on the internet. There's got to be some more copies of this guy out there. So I have two of them. I figured I'm not going to obviously start on the other one tonight, but I thought I'd make two of them, and maybe we can use that as a giveaway down the road or something once they're done. All right, so basically what you're going to see here after this has time to really just set up. I keep pulling that loose. So he'll kind of be set along here, and I'll pin the tail down a little bit more. But let's see what we can do with some of the other bones to scatter about. If you're looking for some ideas for something, how you want to set it up is Google an elephant graveyard. Elephants they go off and die at one place, and you have these big areas full of bones. Good reference to see kind of how this kind of stuff, because obviously this guy hasn't gone skeleton or fossilized on us yet, so just bleached bones out in the wilderness. So I'm gonna cut his foot off from his leg too. Not real big on the big toe claws, but and when I cut something off, I try to, like I said, I'm just trying to clean it up to keep to look like what it was all there already. All right, so, and that was the part that was connected with the claws, and these are back legs, I believe. So we'll lay that kind of like so. I'm gonna flatten the bottom of this off a little bit so it sets a little more flatter on the so there. All right, and the other one. Sorry if I keep getting off camera. I forget I've got other people watching me. I can't pull it all the way to my chest. Hopefully, I've got a couple of changes I'm going to make on the camera rig later this week that'll give us a little bit more of an overhead look and make it a little easier to follow along. All right, we're going to go ahead and cut the foot off on this one too. I figure that area is probably a lot of ligament, tendons and stuff. So once those are gone, it'll start falling apart. All right, so we'll set that one back like so, and then we're gonna clean his foot up a little bit. See if we can set it in there, kind of like we did the other one. Get rid of his claw here, his new claw, and part of his round that up a little more. All right, so we got that. Now we want to See what we can do with his arm. We lost a lot of it when we cut it off the rib cage, so we're just going to kind of have a lower part. Well, tomorrow night we will have our live CAV again, CAV HQ live, and hopefully we'll get more to talking about the motivations, some of the background as far as what is driving each of our factions in the game. Have a little bit of talk about the other alien races that are in the game that we really haven't covered, that are not necessarily combatant races, but they are out there. We got kind of sidetracked last week with a lot of space combat questions, which we don't have a lot of space combat in the game, so. But it was a good conversation. It gave us something to talk about. But hopefully I'll get back on topic this Wednesday and we'll be able to finish that up and talk about that a little bit more. All right, then we need to cut off this end here. Sculpt that up a little bit. You guys are so quiet. I've enthralled you. Should I talk about accelerant again? Make you think we're getting ready to have an explosion? And I don't know about you guys. I find this this to me is the fun part of the hobby. I mean, I like playing the games and everything, but I think the modeling and the painting and the stuff that goes along with it are really what makes our hobby what it is. And I find it very therapeutic. I can kind of get lost working on some of this stuff. All right, so we're going to cut that off and shape this up a little bit. Yeah, and certainly being able to join your friends when you're working on this stuff, that's what's made in our hobby all this COVID stuff even worse, is we've lost a whole year and unfortunate. I'm actually with. I had some pink. I normally use the blue, but I had this thicker pink out there. This foam. I'll actually go in and carve some rocks, some croppings out of that, and then use some gravel and stuff like that to fill in some of the stuff. So I'll show you how we're not going to get to it really tonight, but we might be able to get one or two now that I kind of have an idea of where I want to go with it. Because a lot of times this is just stuff on the spur. We'll figure out where we're at as we go. Funny trying to shape the bones into where their joints would have been. I figure he's probably been snacked on a little bit while he was cooking in the sun, so they tend to scatter the bones around when they're I'm gonna go ahead and clean the jaw up a little bit. I'm not 100% sure I'm gonna use it yet, but it's such a cool looking little piece. That I don't want to just toss it aside. So we might find a place for it here. We'll cut the joint out of it there for where it hooked onto the but we might find a spot for that yet. So now this was going back to the wings. Like I said, I thought there was some pretty cool bones in there. So I'm gonna cut out a couple of them that I think are a little cooler. Have a little bit of some bones to lay around. Maybe if I don't cut something off here. Not real wild about the real curved ones, but that were part of the wing, but oh, and there we broke a scalpel blade. The wonders of scalpels. The metal is basically like a razor, a real thin razor, and you catch them in a bind and they will break on you in a heartbeat. That's all right. It was time for a new one anyway. Okay, so we'll try to. I'll be able to. I don't know that this will. I didn't want to tear it up too bad, but I'm not worried about that part. Alright, so then we're going to cut off, get rid of that piece. piece. I'm going to go back here and cut these off back here. Look out there. Then we can go back in and carve up the ends a little bit, give them a little curve, a little roundness to them. Little dino bone. And it may be a piece that won't work on this model when I start laying him out, but at least I got it. If not, I've got some bones I can use somewhere else down the road. How are we doing on time wise? Oh, 30 more minutes. All right, we're doing good. Guess this took longer than I thought it was going to take. I figured I'd get to my work on my building a little bit tonight. Like little chicken bones. That's these aren't too bad here. Of course, one of the things to watch out for is I'll end up with more bones than he should have, and then people look at it and go, okay, where did all these bones come from? Well, let me tell you, this was a very bony reptile. Yeah, that's a good tough one. Here. It's got kind of a weird up here where it was connected to the for the wing, so we'll hack some of that off, round it off a little bit, make it look more like a joint. Okay, that should give us plenty of extra bones. Clean up our mess a little bit here. All right, now for those of you that came in later, let me kind of talk about what I'm doing here. Several years ago, we put this piece here together, and this was a kind of a wire and sculpty contraption, and we built it a little bit bigger because we wanted the calves to actually be able to run through the bones as kind of an obstacle there. Needless to say, they're way out of scale for what his rib cage would be, but for what we were looking for, that's what it was. So this was much more handmade and rougher and so forth. So I had always wanted to come back. I thought it was a really cool piece to have on a Badlands board or something like that. So when I saw these skeleton dragons and the extra pieces and everything, I thought it would be really cool to come in and put something together like that again. So that's kind of what I'm working towards. So here's what we've got right now. Now, and like I said, later on I'll go in and get this all glued in and pin this down some more. And spread him down a little bit. I might heat him up a little bit and see if I can get him to mold down, but because I want him kind of snaking on there. And then we kind of broke the bones off from the hip. Like so. And same thing with the arms. Kind of flatten him out a little bit. And I don't know if I'm going to use the lower yet, if I can figure out how to make it look. It's just kind of a cool piece. And then I've got some extra bones if needed. So that's where I'm at right now. I've got him all kind of cut up and pieced up. Eventually I'll put some rock pieces in here. That's what we were talking about earlier. Let's see here if I can. So what I'll end up doing is as I go along, and we'll do more of this next week, but I'll carve these up. I'm gonna make some some boulders and, you know, some raised area. And this will serve more as the base. I'll come in and put some Mod Podge or something over the top of it to use to give it a more grainy. Like I said, this is really just more of trying to get some rough shapes in. A little harder on the smaller pieces to do it with the hot wire, so as I get him set up, you know, I'll come in with some, like I said, some foam, some styrofoam to build some rock and around him a little bit. That'll help cover up maybe some spots I need to, or have some support, because I really want this all to be flat, other than and sitting up on top of the ends of the rib cage. So anyway, so that's where we're at so far on this project. So any questions to where we're at this point? Because I've made a mess everywhere. Oh, if not, then I will, let's see, we've got still 20 minutes. So I'm gonna try to get a little bit of work done on my building that I've been trying to get done. Set that to the side, and I'll work on him a little bit during the week, a couple of things, and I'll put up some work in progress shots on the Facebook page or whatnot, and so people can kind of follow along, because there's some couple of steps that I need to work on that won't be the easiest thing to just show on live. But so here's where we're at with our building so far. I was still working on the lower level. This is a kind of a takeoff from the I know what you meant, Sparks. But from the Tyrell Tower from Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. So I've been trying to get this put back together and get it finished, and I get started on it, and something always comes up. So it's kind of my end of my end of the show go-to when I reach a standstill with whatever we're working on. These have got very tight. Which is good. That just makes it that much easier to. Now, and one thing that I talked about last week or the week before a little bit is, of course, when you have these MDF buildings, you get all the dark edges where it's got cut. If that bothers you, if you don't want that, you can take a little light sandpaper and sand it just a little bit, and that will take the burnt edge off. If it's something, I generally primer them pretty heavy. So that generally covers all that up. The cool thing on these too, I mean, you don't even have to paint them if you don't want to paint them. The this MDF and uh, when it has that kind of that burnt tanned look to it, you know, it's kind of a cool look too, a look in and of itself. What's scary is this is just the first floor. It's a very intricate kit. But I wanted to show people that even when they look like there's lots of parts, they're easy to work on. They're easy to put together. And I think the more parts that you can get in one, it just makes it look that much better. I see this as a very central piece on a city board. That's what I thought it'd be really cool for, is maybe a planetary headquarters or it is. We brought them in from England and was selling them on the store. We are in the process of switching over to our own in-house line. So we'll be releasing some kits of our own that I hope to have more information on pretty soon. So that's the reason they're actually on sale right now for our US customers at 50% off. But I think there's still a couple of these left. But they're great kits. They're 10 millimeter. And they're a lot of fun to put together. They do a really good job. Very, very intricate pieces. But once they're gone, they're gone. We won't be doing any more of the TT combat stuff. That's, I think, a very good sign of when a company really takes the time to Make sure even the little stuff fits tight. There's another, I think, Death Ray Designs that does a lot of 28 millimeter, a lot more Warhammer orientated stuff. But again, great kits. They go together well. I've used some of their kits to make landing pads and mech bays and stuff out of that. For our scale, looks okay for what it is. So I'm really looking forward to getting a lot of our designs out there. Right now, we're the ones that we're working on. We're kind of like where we're at with that right now is we're trying to make sure that all the little pieces fit tight and look good, and there's as much that goes into it as a metal miniature. We want to make sure you guys get the best. I wouldn't sell you anything that I wouldn't want to buy myself. That's kind of the #1 rule around here. If somebody's got an idea, like, would you buy it? And if you would, how would you expect it to be built? All right, well, it gets all those fins on. Now comes the outside of the pieces. This has 2 layers down here, so you kind of put the first batch on there, and then it's got another piece that goes on it that connects it to a higher. It can be a little more trickier to try to get them to fit. I think these all get covered up down the road. Yeah, it makes kind of a box around them. If we can get them started. This goes back to they really get them on tight. Maybe too tight sometimes. Just finding the right angle too is part of it. Sometimes I can get it started and then maybe, he said again. All right, so maybe you can get it too tight, too exacting. All right, we're lined up. Let's get on there. Or not. All right. Well, darn it. And then it explodes. Like part of it is my pieces are trying to split on me a little bit. Here. I'm trying to sand it just a little bit to make sure it's nice and square, and because usually it doesn't take much. He says again. All right, now we may come back to that one later. That one may take a little more gluing. All right, so let's go over here and try another one. We'll try this one over here. We'll see if it'll go together. Maybe I just found one it didn't like. Well, it acted like it wanted to go. Yeah, we may have to end up doing some more chopping on these. They are just too tight. What I get for bragging about them. It's trying to start. Well, he says, got the top ones kind of on. Well, I think we're going to have to do a little refiguring on that until we can figure out why the holes are. I think maybe they didn't get the holes as wide as they need to be, so we'll do a little sanding down the road here. So okay, so how about we've got 5 minutes, so we'll kind of I'll finish up there with working on stuff. Questions, stuff that you want to see. The winning lottery numbers. Like I said, tomorrow night on CAV HQ Live, we will be talking again about some of the motivations and the thought process behind the main factions and aliens in the game. We'll talk about some alien races that are out there that are not combative races, but they are out there. They've discovered more than just the 5 that we talk about as the main factions. Some of them have been incorporated with other factions, and we'll kind of go over some of those things. Well, that could be a problem, but you never know. You could find somebody to do it for you that you could trust. Oh, come on! Somebody's got to have one question. Have one terrain focused question for me. What was something that you would like to see or something answered? Speak now or forever hold your peace. I could sing you out of here, but I don't think you want to hear that. You want to kind of see how our guy's going to be scale wise. So he'll probably be good for some heavy cover and some stuff there. Techniques for painting MDF. Well, the first thing I always do is spray primer. I get a spray can and a nice gray primer. Don't get the filler, just plain old primer. Get a good coat or 2 on these. Then at that point, it's really whatever you want to do. If you want to continue with the gray, you can get your airbrush out and really put some darks and lights and speckles on there. You can spray over with any other color, stuff like that. So I'll try to get a couple put together and painted, base coated, and show you a little bit about how I try to put one together and give it a little bit of looks. There's just buildings I think are easy because you can go out and look at buildings in your neighborhood. Look at buildings on the Google and stuff like that, and see how you can see new ones, older ones, really old ones, see how the stains, where the rain has run down them and stuff like that. So lots of cool things. But I always try to base coat all my MDF with gray primer. I find that seals up the ends and gives it all basically the same color to work from. So anyway, that's where we're going to end it for tonight. It is Taco Tuesday as well, so I got to get home for that. Don't want to miss that. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow night. If not, if you're just for the train, I'll be back Tuesday night next week. Chris Lewis, our sculptor, will be working on the new Kodiak cab again this Saturday at 2 o'clock. Provided has some things he's taken care of in real life, and so hopefully he'll be back on this Saturday. But as of right now, we're planning on him to be here. So other than that, you guys have a good night. Thanks for stopping by.